Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Beautiful Struggle. I'm Shanice.
I'm Greg Goodman.
I'm NECA.
TJ.
The Black Advancement is a nonprofit organization that seeks to create unity within the Black community through action and discussion. Today, we're going to be talking about, this is the second in the series of 3, why the wealth gap persists. We talked about last time why the wealth gap exists. Now we're going into why the wealth gap persists. Each of us is going to give our opening arguments, and then we're going to have a full group discussion. And then at the end, we're going to come up with solutions to hopefully maybe close this wealth gap. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off with our first speaker. Great.
All right. I'm going to keep this fairly short. The reason why the wealth gap persists is because it's basically just everything is now just a continuation of slavery in a smaller form. Okay, the disparity, the unfair treatment, and it all starts with ownership and unfair practices through the banks. So this is all just basically a rehashing of how the system was designed to make certain people fail. And there's a hierarchy when it comes to even with the failing, there's a hierarchy when it comes to the failing. So you have the elite class, then you have regular folks that are just doing their day-to-day. Then you have poor whites, and then at the very bottom of that, it's blacks. And it's not just regular blacks, it is all blacks put into this box of disparity, which is amazing how some people have actually made it out of these boxes and gone on to do amazing things. And mostly through a form of entertainment, most of them. Hardly ever through a form of through formal education or ownership of a product or anything like that. And the reason being for that is because the way things are set up, like I said, ownership is everything. So even in the past, with all the great Black inventions and everything that happened, that we've been a part of, as far as inventing things, creating things, you still can't make that product happen unless you get an okay from someone with some wealth and some drive and some push behind that product. And all of those people that have that leadway are white. So what ends up happening most of the time when we do have something that is extraordinarily, that it serves a great purpose for the country, making money and everything else, which is a great business idea of some sort, the only way to make that product go is to get the proper backing. Most of the time, if you're by yourself, independent and Black, you can't make these products go. So we end up selling our ideas to whites, which goes back to ownership. Like the guy who invented the Super Soaker should be ridiculously wealthy right now. But the people that are ridiculously wealthy based off of his invention is the Nerf company. You know, they're the ones that own all these things. And the reason why these things have happened is because of things that have happened in the past, where we've seen whole Black communities burnt down just simply based off of jealousy. So now we put ourselves in a position where we take our good ideas and sell them instead of profiting off of them, because that's the way to make money in this country. That's the lane that we've been given. So and when it comes to that kind of stuff, the wealth is not going to be able to grow throughout our community. It'll grow elsewhere. Like, and it's with everything. This is how crazy our influence has been in this country and how things have been stripped from us. We're all fans of hip hop, right? We've been a fan of this for a long time. We remember this as kids. On YouTube, I watched a beatbox competition, and there was not one Black face in the competition or the crowd. and they've taken a craft that started on New York streets where guys didn't have instruments and made music with their mouth for other guys to rap. Now they have taken this art form and they have marketed it and profited off of it. And we're not even involved in the process anymore. That's how these things end up working. Like, I never thought I'd see the day where it'd be a whole beatbox challenge competition and not one black face in the crowd, on stage, or judging. That's just a microcosm of how the whole thing has happened here in this country for us. They've taken what we do and adopted it for their own and made money off of it. We have to learn about ownership or find a way to get ownership. Whoever wants to jump in, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, man, all good points. That beatboxing is kind of crazy. It reminds me of something else. I think I told you guys about a program that I was in college that was an all-black program initially, and I saw the picture of it today, and it looks quite a bit different. Percentage-wise, I think there's probably, if I'm not exaggerating, somewhere between 7 and 10% black as opposed to 100% when I was in college. So yeah, these things do happen. You made some good points, Greg. I agree with you. I think that for me, when I think about why it persists, a lot of it has it has the same basis as why it exists in the first place. And that's the two big shuns. I know shun's not is a word, but the shun I'm talking about is the one that's used on the end of words. So one of them we get too much of, and the other we get too little of, right? We get too much legislation pitted against us as a race of people, and too little education to help us with these, I'll say, financial literacy as an example. So I'm not going to dredge up all the stuff that I did in the first one, and basically going through all the different pieces of legislation that impacted us, one hit after the next, after the next, after the next. But I will say, but I don't think that any of us here on this panel today are guaranteed voter rights, right? At some point in the future, that's going to be up for debate again. Just to tell you how second class we're viewed as in this country. We were denied education for a really long time, and we have it now, and we have the opportunity to have it now. But just like the Homestead Act, when people were going west and the government allowed, gave them property and money and all that stuff, if we were to try to all here on the East Coast drive out to the West Coast, and somebody has a 40-hour head start on you, the chances of you being able to catch them are very, very slim, right? Just extremely slim. And the way that money works, money works in concert and in tandem with time, right? They've had a lot of time to invest in things, right? And without that ownership that Greg was talking about, it's extremely difficult to catch up. I did read a statistic that said, I think it's less than 3.5% of certified financial planners, I think was the industry. Less than 3.5% of them are Black. So we have a lot of spending power. I think we've all seen that pop up in different places and different stats. But our understanding as a group of people on how to invest that money so that we can create not even necessarily generational wealth, but comfort now and comfort for the generations coming behind you. We're sorely lacking in that department. So I think it continues to persist because there is continued legislation against us as a people. And even though we have literal access to the same avenues of education, we are still denied in a lot of instances. The road has been made extremely difficult for Blacks in this country. I don't think anybody can deny that. I mean, even just recently, the whole George Floyd thing. I mean, a bill to try to pass, police brutality stuff when the entire world saw what happened to him. Why did that have such problems getting pushed through? It wouldn't have any issue if he was anything other than Black. So, I mean, with that as a backdrop, I think that kind of speaks for itself as to why these issues that we have persist. As Greg had mentioned, it's because the system is set up a certain way. And, we're doing our best to push through, but it's going to be the long, hard road to try to catch up, I tell you. But it starts, in my mind, it starts with education. And that's not just financial, but it's also knowing your rights, right? Understanding your local government and how you can get involved and how you can get, some legislation, maybe not, well, get it changed and enacted for your community.
Well said, TJ and Greg. I agree with both of you. It is a system set up against us, and it has been for a very long time. I did a little bit of research to answer this question, and I got a few things that I wanted to share. So according to the Washington Post, Black families have 1/10 of the wealth of the typical white family. And if you think back to 1863, Black Americans own 1/2 or 1% of the nation's wealth. Today, it's just 1.5% of the nation's wealth, showing 1863 to 2022, not a lot has changed. And it's been stagnant since 1962, so there was no growth since 1962. So which is ridiculous if you think about how many years have passed before there's any growth. Some of the reasons that I think it persists, I think they'll date back to like when they started doing redlining and making, because a lot of your wealth is obtained through equity in your housing. And so there's not a lot of Black home owners because of redlining, we were ineligible for credit. And then housing equity makes up about 2/3 of the median household wealth. So these things have made the wealth gap grow. And then when you think about, even when we think about the neighborhoods that were redlined, when you get into, and they start to try to build wealth, gentrification happens where we don't get a piece of that pie, so we have to move out and we can't own a store, we can't own a shop, because the resources aren't available for us to do so. So we're forced out, so we can't even get that. And then mass incarceration is another reason I think has contributed to the disparity of the wealth gap, because by 1980, it was like 11 times more likely that a Black person would be arrested and charged versus a white person. There will be 11 times more likely to go to jail. And then when you get disenfranchisement, you can't get a lot of job opportunities, so there's no growth there. And then even you think about the 2008 housing crisis, and Black people were most likely to see themselves in financial crisis due to higher foreclosure rates, due to subprime loans. So with all that said, and then like TJ said, time, you need time to accumulate wealth. And we haven't had a lot of time to do that. I think I mentioned the last time we spoke, the amount of time we've been out of slavery is not equivalent to a white person who have 40, like you said, like you have that 400-year hike. And then we have to try to catch up to that. And it's only, I think, our generation and our parents' generations that have opportunities to gain wealth. And then not a lot of Black people have an inheritance to leave on to their children. So we haven't had time to accumulate a lot of wealth. So those are some of the reasons why I think it continues to persist.
All right, so I came at this topic from a different angle. I'm thinking about why the wealth gap persists for Black people. I mean, we have discuss the historical aspect, and I think most of us are pretty well aware of that. What I wanted to do is just basically talk about what we can do as a Black community, knowing we live in a racist society, knowing that it's a caste system. I think we focus a lot on the history, and we need to be looking more so at the path forward. What are we going to do given the unfair circumstances we're in? Like, we have to figure out what to do from here, because completely dismantling racism is a huge task, and it's going to take a long time if it ever happens. So, what I was thinking about is how we as a community have a lot of focus on history in the past, as well as social justice. And I really feel like as a people, we really need to be looking more towards economics, group economics, unity, building our wealth as a people in that way. And I think, there's a place for social justice, of course, Black Lives Matter, all that is great. But I do feel like, white people are in power and control of this country, and they're not going to come up off of that anytime soon. And, it's a caste system. They're not going to see us as their equals. They're going to resist the things that we're trying to do. And money talks. I think instead of trying to get them to see us, the humanity in us, I think building our wealth, money talks. And once you have enough wealth, power, who really cares what these people do, think, or whatever? So it's not going to be easy. It's a hard task, but for me, I feel like we need to have more focus on building up our finances and the wealth in the Black community, how we can, given the circumstances. And I think financial literacy is a huge piece of that. Just go, the importance of investments, home ownership, even marriage is really, really important for passing on generational wealth. And like we discussed before, death planning, leaving something behind for your children, things of that nature. And I think that a lot of those things get missed, not necessarily passed on to kids when they're young or young adults. And it's a lot of things that can have the potential to change the trajectory of your life and your life choices. And sometimes people's family members don't have it, they don't know about it, but we have a World Wide Web out here. There's different things that can be instituted, programs. When you think about the millions of dollars that are poured into Black Lives Matter, I would love to see some of those funds directed into more things of more of an economic nature versus only social justice type of things. So that is pretty much the angle I was coming from, instead of getting into the historic stuff, which is all very valid, all very true. But I just wanted to get at that point.
Awesome. So this is the discussion part. I don't know what I put like that, but this is the open discussion part. So if anybody wanted to respond to NECA or anybody else in the panel, this is your time to do so.
Hey, I understand what you were saying there, NECA, but the thing that it's hard to fathom how much money like a group like the Koch brothers has or something like that. Not only do we need to be financially literate, that's only half of the game. There's another half of the game that we don't have that they'll always have, and that is the hookup factor. Like, you don't make this kind of money without a hookup at some point, a lookout, some kind of crooked behavior. The level of talent you have to be Black to make it to $1 billion, you either got to sell out or be ridiculously clean. So that's the factor that we need to focus on. Like, if we get some people up there, we have to make sure we keep it all within our group. But I don't even know if that'd be possible, because there's gatekeepers to everything. So I don't know how that's the part that we need to figure out. How do we become gatekeepers of financial institutions.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not going to be easy, but I mean, those are things that need to happen. And like, I'm not saying that we have to jump to being all Black billionaires, but we need to be,
Oh, no.
moving up. Yeah,
Mhm.
moving up the financial ladder, moving up the wealth ladder. And, the game is rigged, and
Yes.
we're not going to be able to play fair. Other people aren't playing fair with us. It does us no favors to play fair in a game that is rigged, right? So if we need to do some of the same things, nepotism and all of those things, what's the problem? If this is what other people are doing and this is what we're going to need to do to get ahead, I have no issue with that. I'm not worried about.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it either. My thing is we don't have the ability, we don't have the hookups to be able to move in that manner is what I'm saying. Like if someone's gonna go crooked, people know you're going crooked, but they allow it to go crooked because they're getting help. They're helping you be crooked. We don't have that access. We need to find one person that can make it up there who can allow us to be crooked in this system like everybody else. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like you are looking at people who are super uber wealthy and having to do all kind of crazy crooked things. I'm not looking at people becoming Bill Gates. I'm just like stepwise climbing up. There are certain things that can be done to help improve people's financial situation and improve their wealth, like starting with maybe education, occupation choice, right? Like we spoke to earlier, there's a lot of Black people who are successful in entertainment, sports, etc. But there are a lot of people of all races who can be very successful in different occupations, right? And I think Black people aren't going into those occupations as much. And so working some of these other jobs which can be like minimum wage or there's many statistics out there showing that people who have a bachelor's degree make more money than people who don't have any college education. People who have a master's make more than those. So there are certain things that we know that are going to have you make more money in life, be more successful in life. And we need to be arcing towards that to try to get there. So like it's stepwise approach. We're not going to get all the way to being Mark Zuckerberg tomorrow on our own, right? But I think there are things that we can do to improve our situation. There's like kind of a formula that you can follow. I mean, it's not foolproof, but there are things that you can do that will improve our situation. I see it even within my family. Like there's people who followed a certain path and they're doing well, and people who did not follow that path, they're doing poorly, right? It can be done slowly but surely. It's not going to be a huge jump, but little steps.
I was having a discussion earlier this week with a couple of colleagues, and we met with the higher ups of HR, and we're trying to do something within our school system because we think about like how the amount of teachers that get hired, and then a lot of them go on to like central office jobs. So they propose maybe creating that same network. Like we all get the same education, like as far as they'll pull us in, how to properly fill out a resume so that you could look good. And I think, and they have, and have like career-based mentors. So how to advance yourself. So I think if there were systems in place like that, because a lot of times people just don't know. And if we do make it, we need to make sure that we're looking out for other people so that they can get into those positions and teaching them how to do it. Because like mentorship is very important when you want to go higher up in your career. And a lot of other cultures, they value that mentorship. So it's not just illegally they're doing it. Sometimes it's not nepotism, is they just have the network. And I feel like Black people, we don't have that network. We're not teaching each other. And I kind of think about like when Black people do become successful, you don't see a lot of them going back into their hood and feeding in and starting these programs. We get it, and then we kind of just run with it, and it's our own. So I know this is a little bit more to a solution side, but I think if, like you guys are saying, if we have that network and we teach other people how to get to where we are or beyond what we are, I think that would do wonders with our wealth. However, it doesn't negate the fact that there is a system set up against us. We just need to learn how to work the system.
Yeah, we're kind of, in the solution discussion, I feel already.
Yeah, I feel like too.
And what you were saying, Shanice, kind of jacks into, I guess, what I kind of had mentioned as a solution last time, and what I firmly believe is entirely necessary for us to reach, what we've all been talking about here, and that's representation, right? Like you were talking about, you were in the room when they're talking about forming this group, right? And if we're in the room when legislation is created or education opportunities are being formed or some new development is going to be sprouted up in some part, and people can invest in it. If we have a seat at the table, I think that's going to make a really big difference, right? Right now, we're underrepresented in almost all areas, right? I mean, literally almost all areas. And that network that we're talking about, whether you want to call it a good old boy network or a family network or nepotism, whatever that is, you can't do that if you don't have somebody that's already there. We gotta have representation. I think that's a really big part of our go forward here.
Well, yeah, I'd agree. I mean, that's exactly what I was trying to get at, is we need to find someone who can make it to these areas. They will have the ability to pull other people up with them, or put people on, or at least give them the education, understanding what needs to happen to make it through these spots. But the hard part is there's always people that are talented enough to make it up there in those areas. But the thing is, they don't choose the people that would want to make a difference for all of us most of the time to get into those positions. That's what I'm saying. Like they're gonna pick someone who they're comfortable with to be in those positions. If it's a black dude that they're comfortable with, there's a reason they're comfortable with them in those positions. You know what I'm saying? Like for the most part. I mean, every now and then you'll have people that are so extraordinarily talented that you ain't got no choice but to put them in there at some point. But a lot of things, it's comfortability. And some of the blacks that they will be willing to put in these positions where you can, get on your Zuckerberg and all that other stuff, are not for us in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like all skin folk ain't kin folk kind of thing. That's what I'm saying. It has to be the right kind of people to be in these positions to help us out.
But there's also, another avenue is entrepreneurship, of course, right? If we have that unity as a people, right? Because like we discussed before, we have a lot of buying power, a lot of spending power in this country. And so if we had more of our people invested in buying Black-owned products or Black-owned services, I think that would be a great way to get people up in that upper echelon that we're discussing, without having to go through, some of the obstacles and hurdles we're discussing, with not being allowed in the room, or only, a few people hand selected to be there. So, I mean, that also is a difficult thing. I have no idea how we would get that done. But, ideally, if we were really keeping our dollar in the Black community, and having more entrepreneurship, we could have our own Black-owned everything. Well, maybe not everything. Black-owned a lot of things, and have a lot more wealth in the community that way, without having to rely on outside groups and encounter as many obstacles from them.
Right. We need organizations like the Black Advancement and other organizations that would be willing to assist, but they need a hand, someone to invest in them. So, but I feel like
Black entertainers.
Yeah, Black entertainers, they need to form some sort of, I think our biggest thing is we're not organized. we can say this, we can say that, but until we, like you said, come together and unite and see, everybody has to see this as a problem, not just a few. Even though a few can make a few could make a big impression, but we need more than a few to get us to where we need to be. Everybody has to kind of see it as a problem. And I think what the pandemic did, it did bring a light to a lot of disparities, and a lot of people are talking about it. But now it's like, now you got to be about it. Now you see these disparities. Now we got to kind of come together as a people and try to fight this, because you can only do so much through lip service. And now we need actions. We need some of these celebrities to invest in Black businesses. And I know we talked about them having like a reputation. I don't know if that was a female voice or maybe an after discussion of the human voice or what, but we just need to get over all the stereotypes and stigmas, and just invest in and just have faith in our people, because it's important that in order for this spirit, and it's going to take time, because as we were like TJ said, we're behind in this race, and it's going to take a lot of time to catch up, but we have to be willing to catch up. We can't say, well, it's me. We got to be willing to do what it takes to catch up.
Yeah, and I think we're in a tough situation, and I think a lot of times fear holds people back who have the ability to do great things. And when you have a whole lot of things against you, it can be really scary to jump out there and try. But I really think, for me, as I see it, I think entrepreneurship with as much education and support behind it as you can muster up to be successful, and then really going into high paying occupations. And I think, most of them are going to need higher education. Some don't necessarily, but I think that those are two ways that I think are relatively, I don't want to say easy to do, but I think they can be accomplished.
Yeah, but you know what happens to us with our entrepreneurship thing? I mean, we'll take it, we'll build it up, it'll reach a certain height, and then someone will come with a check, and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm willing to buy this off of you," and we'll usually sell it, and then it's all stanked up to be damned, and nobody wants it anymore after that. So it just kills the whole thing. Prime example: FUBU. FUBU was killing it, late 90s, early 2000s. Then they sold it. FUBU gone. BET used to be the joint. Sold it. Gone. That's what ends up happening with our things when we do build something. Because back in the day, they would just take it and burn it down. Now they just got a big check and buy it and shut you up. So we got to find someone who's not willing to take that check and to keep building.
Well, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with selling. Like, if I was a big entrepreneur, I don't really enjoy working hard personally. So I have no problem selling things. That's not an issue, but make sure that you're speaking with legal and getting things written in the contract. Are you getting a percentage of money off of all of these sales? Like, how are you going to make as much money as you can make out of that deal? I think that's okay. And then if you want to move forward and buy and do something else, I think that's fine. But like we were saying about this, the Super Soaker, Super Soaker and Nerf, like, it sounds like that was not a good situation, but I think it's okay to sell your product to a big company, but make sure it's written in there that you're getting, I don't want to say royalties, but whatever the term is, I don't know, I'm not an economist, but whatever you need to get in there so that you can make that can sustain you.
Yeah, my question is it once you sell it, okay, fine, you sell it, you get the more money. Once they do that, most of these people disappear with their money, is what I'm saying. And I don't know if they come back with their money and built up a whole new thing to start a whole new business to put Black people in these positions with them to keep building up, or they just take their money and that's it. Mm-hmm. But I know you can't just go through, like, you can't just go through and buy the Dairy Queen franchise. Whatever white dude has that, he's keeping it. and he's passing it down to his children and his children's children and all that. That's what I'm saying when it comes to us. That's what we need to start doing with our things. We need to keep them and hold them. And we as the people, we need to keep putting money into these people, into the people that own these things, so it expands. And if it expands, there's more higher opportunity for us because it's our company. It
Right.
never goes there.
Yeah,
It
I definitely agree with that.
really makes it to that position.
Mhm.
It's always somebody with a big check gives it to them, and then they're just done for the most part. You don't hear from them again. We need to find a way to hold on to what's ours instead of selling what's ours. That's what I'm trying to, that's the point that I was making. And I don't have a problem with people selling their product as long as you're gonna come back with something stronger. Like, everybody remembers, like, another example with the closing, Rockefeller gear. Gone. You can't find Rockefeller at Burlington and Walmart. It is gone. It's all gone. I think the only dude that's still doing it like that is what's his name? Puff Daddy, old Sean Combs. And I don't even know where you can find his clothes. He might have had to switch up the whole name and label to keep people from taking his money and trying to buy his stuff. But the point I'm making is we're great with taking things, building it up to a certain point, and then just selling it and taking the money and then handing it off. Instead of it's cool, you can hand off all that money to your kids, but to hand off the money and the business to your kids, that should be the goal. To keep those things going and being built up. And I don't understand why we don't do more of that, because I'm sure at some point that there was somebody who wanted to buy Windows or whatever from Bill Gates, and he was like, no. I'm sure at some point the guy who started IBM, they were like, hey, I got $20 for you. Why don't you give me some of that? And he was like, no. And now look at these companies. Now if these companies fail, the whole country will have a meeting and get their money together to make sure that they keep going. That's what we need. I have yet to see one Black company out here where the country is like, we can't make it if these people fail. Let's take all of your money, your tax money, and give it to them to ensure that this keeps going. We need to get on that level of success. And I'm not saying, like I said, it's not gonna happen overnight, but it'll never happen if we keep on building stuff up and then selling it to white people and letting them stank it all up to be damned, or just shelving it to keep things moving. That's what we need to do. We need to hold on to what's ours.
I got a question. Is Famous Amos still Black owned? Is that Famous Amos? He still have his cookie chain?
I
Or
don't
did he
think
sell
so.
it?
I'm pretty sure someone bought it, and Famous Amos is just the logo. He's just face now.
But that's an interesting point, Greg. But I'm sitting here thinking about what you said, and I'm wondering, because I don't have any experience owning something like Fubu or anything like that, so I'm just speculating here, just spitballing with you guys, right? You know how much harder we typically have to work to succeed. I wonder if they sell that stuff and just don't do anything else because it's just so much work to get to where
Yes.
and they're just
Yeah.
completely just like, all right, I'm finished. I can't.
That is it. You're probably 100% right with that. I wouldn't doubt it. I'm not saying that these guys got it easy and they're just, and they're just sitting back, sipping champagne.
Yeah,
I know it's some hard work. It's gotta be to be a minority in this country, to build up something of that level of success, and people are trying to chop you down at every point that they get, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But what I'm saying is if you can weather through that, because it's not going to get any easier no matter what.
I'm with your point. I was just wondering if the reason for that happening repeatedly is that they're just burned out.
Yeah, I think that's valid. And then also, I think maybe the lack of mentorship when you're talking about people selling early before their product or idea booms, maybe not having as many connections or people in their circle that are on that level or above who have the foresight to see where this could go, how you could kind of manage this, and just, kind of getting out before everything really blows up for them, and maybe not having somebody advising them about what this could look like if you do this, if you pitch this, if you add that, that could be another thing that kind of has people just getting out of the game prematurely.
Sure.
Could be. Actually, that's probably a likely scenario too. You get to a wall and you don't know where to go.
Mhm.
But like I said, the reason why there's that wall there and there's nowhere to go is because not enough people, at least in my opinion, I'm not sure, have fought through that wall to keep their thing. Like I'm sure if you make it to a certain level, you can call Oprah and she'll help you out. She's been in this game a long time. But I don't know if anyone holds on long enough to call Oprah. You know, to call Oprah and be like, hey, we at this amount of money, what do we do here? I don't know what to do.
And then
So-
I think also another thing, as you were speaking about that I was thinking is that sometimes people will struggle and have their business and hang on to it. And then when it's time to pass it down to their children, the children have no interest in doing this line of work or continuing what's going forward. And maybe the original owner passes on or gets too sick to carry on and their children, sell off whatever their, parents were working hard
That's it.
for.
If it's a smaller business, then yeah, that could be something where if the kids aren't interested, it can fall off. It's like that if you like own a restaurant or something. I'm talking about if you own like a company where they're selling your stuff in Macy's and Target and everywhere else. At that point, it's just like the white boys. You're nothing more than a figurehead. You're Bruce Wayne. You don't have to know anything. You just got to sign some papers and oversee some things. There's already people in place that know exactly what they're doing. And if you're interested, you can learn and get a gist of what's going on. But at that point, most people are just figureheads for the most part. They don't have to do the grind day-to-day work. They show up to a couple of meetings and they take some pictures on camera. It's like Elon Musk. Elon Musk has not built a rocket. He knows nothing of it. He knows guys that know, and he takes credit for it because he's the money man behind it. It's that kind of thing. See,
Yeah, but I mean, Black people aren't mostly on that level though, right?
You said what?
Black people aren't very often on that level as the figurehead.
But I'm saying the reason why we don't get to that level is because we sell early. That's the point I'm making.
Right. But what I was saying is I think some of the reasons we sell early are like before you can even think about getting to that level, if it's a small business and the person wants to pass it on to their children, the children are interested in that line of work, whatever it is. If it's selling a product, if it's a business idea, if it's a service you're offering to the community that could pop up and be a big chain, I think way underneath that, I think that's probably what's happening more so across the board that's preventing people from rising up to that level.
Yeah.
And I think that also goes back to what I was talking about, like choice of occupation and diversity and looking at the picture for the future.
Yeah, this isn't a blueprint for everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about certain products that are being sold within the market. But apparently, I'm hearing we got to move on. So let's go ahead and move on.
Thank you all so much. So we did have a lot of solutions for this gap. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to say, is there any final remarks? And then we're going to move on with that. Then we'll move on from there. Anyone has any last things to say?
The last thing that I got to say about any of this is not all of us, like I'm not expecting everyone in the Black community to be extraordinary. The people that are extraordinary, we need to get their back. That's all I'm saying. Like not everyone's LeBron James, you know. Sometimes you're just Tony Jackson at the end of the bench. Like not everyone's gonna be LeBron, but what you need to do is support the LeBron Jameses of our community and make sure that they're uplifted so they can build the wealth and then they can spread the wealth, hire some people, teach some people, and all those things.
Right. All right.
What I was going to say is that just kind of looking at an external versus an internal locus of control, it's kind of like your mindset of whether life happens to you or you are manipulating how your life is going to look. And we may not be in the best situation, but try to set yourself up for success by you making the best choices that you can that are within your power and control.
All right, beautiful discussion, people. And that's it for the beautiful struggle. Thank you for watching. You can see this and more at the Black Advancement YouTube channel or at the website blackadvancement.com. Until then, peace and advance.